There's a moment in life when you realize something most people never do. That the thing you chased, the thing you thought would fix everything, might actually make things worse. Will Smith once said something that shocked the room, not because it was dramatic, but because it was honest. He said, "There's an amount of money that once you pass it, it buys misery." And coming from one of the most successful entertainers in human history, that statement hits differently. This isn't a story about fame. It's not about Hollywood. It's about what suffering teaches you, why confidence is misunderstood, and why most people are listening to the wrong voices. This is the lesson behind the success, the lesson nobody sees. The myth of money. When people look at Will Smith, they see the finished product, the movies, the awards, the global fame. What they don't see is where he started. When asked if he came from money, his answer was simple. No, I came from the opposite, and that matters because it shaped how he saw the world. For a long time, money looked like freedom, like safety, like happiness. But after a certain point, he realized something most people learn too late. Money doesn't solve internal problems, it magnifies them. Once survival is handled, money doesn't give peace, it exposes the lack of it. Pressure increases, expectations rise, mistakes cost more, and suddenly, the thing you thought would save you starts demanding more from you than it gives back. That's why Will says money doesn't buy happiness. It buys comfort, yes, but happiness, that comes from somewhere else entirely. Suffering as a teacher. Everything changed when Will Smith worked on the pursuit of happiness. Not because of the acting, not because of the awards, but because of the message. He learned something uncomfortable, yet powerful. Suffering is a gift. That sentence alone rewires how you see life. Most people run from suffering, avoid it, resent it, but will learn that the universe doesn't teach through ease. It teaches through resistance, through failure, through uncertainty, through moments when everything feels like it's breaking. He said, God teaches through suffering and hard times, because pain forces honesty. It strips away illusion. It shows you what actually matters, and it reveals who you really are when nothing is guaranteed. The hardest seasons don't come to punish you. They come to shape you. Confidence is not what you think. One of the biggest misunderstandings in life is confidence. People think confidence means being fearless. It doesn't. Will Smith learned this early on during The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Confidence isn't about being cool. It's about not being afraid to look stupid. The moment you stop trying to protect your image, you become free. Most people are trapped by one invisible cage. What will people think? Will realize that worrying about other people's opinions is the fastest way to lose yourself. Confidence is built when you decide, I'm willing to be misunderstood, because growth requires embarrassment, learning requires failure, and courage requires risk. The world, as Will points out, rewards the courageous, not the perfect, not the quiet, not the hidden, the ones who move despite fear. One of the most dangerous mistakes people make is this. They take advice from people who haven't lived the life they want. Will Smith puts it bluntly. Listening to advice from someone who hasn't done what you want to do is almost insanity. Why? Because advice carries values, and if someone's life doesn't reflect what you want, their advice will pull you away from your path, not toward it. That's why Will follows one rule. Never take advice from someone you wouldn't trade places with. He shared a story about calling Quincy Jones during a difficult time. Quincy didn't give him instructions. He didn't pretend to know better. He simply said, I wouldn't have chosen the life you chose. So whatever you're doing, keep doing it. That's real wisdom. Not control, not interference, just clarity. The quiet mastery. As you grow, something interesting happens. You ask for advice less, not because you're arrogant, but because you've learned how to observe. Will Smith explains that instead of listening to words, he watches behavior. Because people always reveal what they believe by how they live. Success leaves clues, so does failure. And when you learn to read those clues, you stop needing permission. You trust your process. Final reflection. Will Smith's story isn't about fame. It's about this truth. Happiness doesn't come from money. Strength doesn't come from comfort. Confidence doesn't come from approval. It comes from suffering well, choosing courage, and listening to the right voices or none at all. Because in the end, the life you want won't be built by following the crowd. It will be built by enduring what most people run from.